Joined today by lots of people. I'm so glad so many people could make it. And there's a real mix of people. We have some existing customers on today's session, and we've also got some new people that may not have seen the evaluagent platform before, or certainly aren't using it day to day. So for those that are new to an evaluation webinar, welcome. Thank you for making the time to come along. For context, if you're unsure about who evaluagent are, or perhaps you've only heard about us once or twice, ultimately what we do is we help contact centers automate their quality assurance and generate conversational insights. And we are recognized, as you can see, by those number of badges along the bottom, as one of the leading software providers in this space. Essentially, where we like to position ourselves is that we automate the evaluation of every call, chat, and email in the same way as your best QA manager would. So you can confidently train human agents or AI agents based on the reality of their performance. And we do that across three streams in the platform. We have our AutoQA, we have our conversation intelligence, and then we connect those two things together so you can take insights to improvement. But if you want to learn a little bit more, we have our website. We can arrange a demo. Today is more about talking about context engine and some of the developments that we're seeing in the QA space. So without any further ado, quick poll. We promised this at the start. We're going to try and make this session as interactive as possible. There's a poll that should be popping up on your screen now. First question is, how much of your contact center interactions are you currently QAing? And there's a couple of options on the screen here. We have less than 5%, kind of that traditional approach, 5 to 25%. Maybe you've deployed some automation or you've got a pretty sizable team to do that. 25 to 75%, that kind of partial auto QA coverage, or anywhere above 75%, making sure that you're really observing every single conversation that your contact center is having with customers. Chris, just whilst we let everybody kind of fill that in, thoughts on that poll, where you think the majority of answers may lie?
I think that's always an interesting one. My feeling is that we would be around partial auto QA. I think that's where most people would kind of fall into. But having said that, so a stat very recently, it was talking about 54% of contact centers worldwide still evaluating about 2 to 3% of conversations. So it'd be interesting where we see that fit. But the way, I'm going to go for partial auto QA. Considering the audience that we've got today, that's where I feel that we would sit. But we'll see.
Yeah, brilliant. So I think that poll's come through. I think so the leading answer on today's session is less than 5%. So about 40% of people, Chris, are less than 5%. And the next highest answer, 28%, is that partial auto QA coverage. So 25 to 75% of conversations being automatically evaluated. So interesting, eh?
Could have went with my first answer.
No, all good. So just building upon that poll a little bit for the audience. What we like to do is just talk about the journey that we're often speaking about with lots of other contact centers, and each stage of this is kind of a logical extension of the next. As kind of the poll somewhat suggested, is that most of the conversations that we're having with people today is they're kind of sitting in this step between stage 2 and stage 3, whereby they've moved on from manual QA. They are in this kind of semi-automated or auto QM world, whereby most interactions are being automatically scored by the AI, and really humans are in the loop to either approve those scores or make sure that there's a second line there before any data gets shared with agents. Ultimately, what businesses are trying to get to and what they're telling us is, through the process, moving to what is increasingly called quality intelligence, whereby quality assurance data is being combined with conversational insights like sentiment, like reasons for contact, like some of the predictive X metrics. So as a cohesive unit, QA teams are able to operate as the business's nerve center and really the observer of quality and customer experience. And they're able to look at every single conversation to drive business-wide improvement, not just focusing on agent performance. And that's the trend that we're still seeing in the market today. What's really interesting, however, and we'll just move on to the next poll very briefly, is we are seeing more and more businesses starting to think about AI agents and the need to evaluate the performance of those AI agents. Now, this is something that's come up more often recently, Chris, I guess. You've had a lot of conversations about it recently. What are you expecting to see on the response to this poll? I have no idea, frankly.
I've got to be honest. And I'm thinking that I was going to go in the middle of the fence and say not yet, but planned. But I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and say no plans. The reason I'm saying that is because I think when it comes to bots, sometimes feel, and this is based in conversations that I've had myself with chatbots, we turn them on, or organizations turn them on, and we make the assumption that everything's fine, but we don't find out whether there's any issues until it's a customer that's presenting those issues to us. There's customer frustration, there's a complaint that comes in, or you find a review on Trustpilot or whatever that lets you know that, wait a minute, maybe there's something not right with my bots. And maybe that's one of those things we need to do before we need to bring that into play before we get to that point. So it'll be interesting. I'm really curious about this one. I'm going to say no plans.
Interesting. Yeah. So looking at the poll, 22% of people are currently evaluating the quality of AI agents, which, as you just said there, Chris, the importance of observing these AI agents in production is so valuable. I know you and I spoke about kind of you wouldn't let an agent handle 1,000 calls without QAing a single one of them.
And the interesting thing is you don't have to go too far to find the horror stories when it does go wrong. Usually because it's the butt of an internet joke, and that's the last place that you want to be if your bot goes rogue.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's reassuring is 50% of people on today's webinar, whilst they aren't doing it yet, they have plans to. So I think there is a recognition of the need to oversee the bot, and increasingly as a head of quality is ultimately the responsibility of the quality of customer experience landing with your team. You're best placed to do that inside your organization. You know what a good customer experience looks like for your business. It makes sense for you and your team to evaluate them however you plan to do that. So that, yeah, really interesting and some really useful insights. So thank you for everybody taking part in that poll. What I wanted to talk about a little bit is on one of the first slides we showed you today, we talked about evaluagent, really trying to focus on building AI that's as good as your best QA manager and coach. Why we see that as really, really important is ultimately if you are going to start increasingly rely on AI to evaluate your conversations, you need to make sure that you can trust the judgment for AI and also making sure that the AI understands your business context. So we can talk a little bit about that later on. Chris is going to show you how we do that inside evaluagent. Before that, though, I thought it'd be useful just for the benefit of the entire audience today, talking about a little bit of a reality check around what AI handles well today and what we can't yet automate. So if we think about what AI handled really well today from an AutoQA perspective, things like soft skills when it comes to empathy, tone, rapport, objection handling, and questioning of the customer in the scenario, the large language models and AI is extremely good at evaluating the quality of the agent in those types of line items. You can utilize guidelines in order to define what empathy means inside your organization a little bit more to tailor the response and give the AI some guidelines. But for the last 18 to 24 months, AI has been extremely good at being able to evaluate the soft skills. Likewise, when it comes to what I class as basic process and security steps such as ID and V, did the agent follow the script? Did the agent ask for the customer's postcode or driving license or zip code? Steps like that within your process. AI, again, is extremely reliable at being able to evaluate those security and process questions. It works, it's reliable, and you can trust it to do that consistently. The The reason why is because these work well because the answer lives inside the transcript. So AI is able to take the transcript, it's able to assess it alongside your line items and guidelines, bring it together and derive an outcome in the same way that your best QA manager or coach would. The two areas where we want to be upfront around what we can't automate today or what we haven't been able to automate until recently is twofold: third-party systems and knowledge base. And what I mean by the third-party system is, did the agent update the CRM? Did they log the right disposition code? AI within the QA space can't answer that today. It's not necessarily an issue with the intelligence of the large language model or the capability of the model, but actually it's more of a connectivity issue whereby, because the large language model rightly doesn't have access to your CRM, as an example, and where this data lives, it can't reliably check that information in the same way that a human can today, because they can go into those other systems. If you took the access away from the human evaluators, they wouldn't be able to evaluate it. That's the same for AI today. And then the second is knowledge based. So until recently, what's happened is the majority of line items whereby you are trying to assess the agent's knowledge of a product, as an example. Maybe it's a baggage handling policy. Maybe it's around, did the agent explain how a feature worked properly? It's very difficult to put that into the majority of AutoQM platforms to date. What AutoQM platforms have been able to do is assess whether the agent answered the customer's question, and whether it looked about right. But it was very difficult for any AutoQM platform to actually be able to say, was it the correct answer based on your knowledge base material, based on your policies, based on your training material? Because whilst the answer that the agent gave lives within the transcript, the correct answer that you're looking to compare it to lived within a third-party system, typically a knowledge base article that could either be a Word document or hosted somewhere else. And all the AutoQM platforms out there in the market didn't have access to that data. I say what we can't automate today. I don't want to set you up too much, Chris, but we're going to be changing one of those boxes. And I think based on the webinar description, everybody can get a sense as to what that box is going to be solved. Before we get into that, one last poll is just coming up on your screen now. And I'm interested because we make an assumption that context has been a real big barrier for scaling auto QA and trust in that scoring. What I'm really interested in understanding is, from the audience today, if you've been held back from scaling auto QA, what's been your biggest blocker? Is it the trust in scoring accuracy? Is it the complexity of the setup and the configuration? Historically, we know with text-based auto QA and keyword tagging, there was a lot of work involved to set that up. Is it the cost or the commercial case and just being able to demonstrate to the business the importance of being able to invest in auto QA and struggling to get that budgetary sign off for the reasons that we know is difficult right now? Is it perhaps a lack of internal buying, where whether it's the agents, whether it's the team leaders, whether it's your directors, whatever that kind of group of stakeholders is, are you struggling to get internal buy-in in terms of the importance of investing in QA? Or is it kind of this knowledge gap where the AI doesn't understand our business and there's a worry or concern there that we wouldn't actually be able to automate the majority of our QA process, because actually a lot of that knowledge is held in the heads of our QA team, and we don't have a way of getting that into a system. Chris, I've come to you last, and we've given the majority of people a chance to answer. I guess interested, if you haven't seen the answers yet, to what you think might be the most common question, common response.
It's a really good question we've got here. I kind of feel as if the trust and the complexity kind of goes hand in hand. The reason being is that when it comes to prompting AI, we have completely had to change how we write those sort of kind of criteria, because traditionally it was always towards human evaluators. And with human evaluators, when you're telling them how to score, there was certain reasonable assumptions that you could make. Common sense, you could argue. With AI and writing those prompts, there's been a huge learning curve, I think, for everyone to write guides that are that give you a high level of accuracy, which then builds into that trust. So I'm really interested to see these results, Matt.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because the cost or the lack of internal buy-in, which have historically been a challenge for QA teams, or certainly investment in QA as a function, would, I know you and I have done webinars in the past 3 years ago, that would be the top of this list. Now,
Yeah,
actually,
good
it's at
driver
the
now for
bottom.
organizations to adopt AI, an AI first methodology, because you can see the benefits, but it's just utilizing it in the best way to get that high
Yeah,
level of accuracy.
definitely. I think what's interesting is, as you say, trust, the perceived complexity and the setup and the knowledge gap are coming through as the top three reasons and the top three blockers.
Trust is
The good,
massive.
it's huge, isn't it? And the good news is, from a technical perspective, we don't need to wait for a new large language model to be released in order to automate our QA. Like, we don't need to wait for ChatGPT 7 or 8 or 9 or Claude Mythos or the next, whatever they'll call it next. We don't need a new large language model. The large language models we have today are very much capable of handling what we're asking it to do. The missing link is context. It's not new models. As I say, a new AI model comes along, but there's arguably marginal improvements that could be made to your existing line items, and also there's some trade-offs there that I'm happy to go into if anybody wants a real deep dive into my views on that. But really, the missing link is your context, and by enabling the AI to understand your context, it opens up a brand new category of line items that you can evaluate, which you wouldn't have been able to evaluate before through the AI, as well as being able to personalize the platform. So by providing context, you can let AI evaluate correctness, not just conversational quality. And also some of the features that our existing customers are making use of today, making them more aligned to your business. Because what we have introduced is the evaluagent context engine. And the evaluagent context engine allows you to add information into the evaluagent platform about your business goals, the regions that you serve, and the industry that you operate in, and also upload your existing knowledge base articles into the platform so that you can make use of them within the AutoQA process. And I'm going to hand over to Chris in just a second to give you a live demo of the context engine in action, because it is so powerful. In terms of power, it powers three things across the platform. It's a foundational layer inside of evaluagent that helps you achieve smarter auto QA ultimately. It powers things within Spotlight. So when you are trying to understand what's going on inside your conversations, our AI understands what's important to you as a business and what your goals are. And then some of the features coming down the track around AI coaching and personalizing the coaching prep at scale. Again, because the business understands, the AI understands what good looks like, what your existing policies are, what your goals and objectives are. We're able to utilize that in the platform and the AI. So a really powerful feature that we're going to be showing off today, and a real foundational part of the evaluation platform. Chris, I've set that up. I'm going to hand over to you to share your screen, and you can walk the audience through what the evaluagent context engine looks like in this first release.
Sounds good. Let me share my screen. I think I have to send you a request, Matt.
Yeah,
There we
I
go.
think that should be coming up in just a second.
Cool. We should be able to see evaluagent.
Yeah, can see that, Chris.
Cool. Awesome. So let's start off with a conversation. So this is a conversation that has been imported into evaluagent. So let's just walk through what this conversation is about. So this is an insurance company, a hypothetical insurance company, a synthetic company. So this customer has got in touch because they want to end their coverage because they no longer need the policy. So after the agent goes through security, etc., the customer asks, what is this going to cost me to cancel? So the agent says, because you're outside the cooling off period, we will charge you £100 as a cancellation fee. Now, the customer quite rightly says, £100, that's quite a lot. Any flexibility there? But the agent stands firm. The cancellation fee is a standard charge and isn't negotiable. Sounds good? So, if we take a look at what the actual policy document is when it comes to cancellation fees, let's take a look at that. It turns out that the cancellation fee is actually only £50. So the information that the agent gave the customer was completely incorrect. Let's see how the scoring is treated in that scenario. So let's bring it back to evaluagent and bring in a scorecard. So this scorecard has two line items. These are automated line items that utilize Gen AI. Now, the interesting thing is, though, is they're measuring exactly the same thing. They're asking the question, did the agent quote the correct cancellation fee? Now, considering the context of the webinar, one of these line items has the context of that knowledge article and one doesn't. This first line item up at the top here doesn't have access to that document. But what's interesting is that it's scored it as a pass. Now, if we click the little Smart Score Analysis button here, it will bring down the analysis. Any decision made by AI in evaluagent is completely transparent and explainable. So let's see what the analysis is here. So the platform has scored this as a pass because the agent correctly identified that the customer was outside the cooling off period and quoted the applicable £100 cancellation fee. Also doubles down. We say the agent also confirmed this fee and the refund timeline at the end of the call, ensuring the customer had a clear understanding of the charges. The thing is, though, we know from that knowledge document that that is completely wrong. Now, the thing is, up till now, we are only able to score within the context of the transcript here. So without that additional knowledge article, we've potentially run the risk of hallucination, which is exactly what's happened here. The interesting thing with AI models is that it struggles to know when it's wrong and when it's not, which this is what gives that higher risk of hallucination. Now, if we take a look at the bottom line item, this has been scored as a fail, exactly the same line item, but the difference is it has access to that knowledge article. So in this instance, if we look at analysis, it's been scored as a fail because the agent quoted a £100 cancellation fee, which is incorrect according to the knowledge base. So it's referencing that document that contains all of those facts. The correct fee for a customer outside the cooling off period should be £50. So it's given us that correct value for that particular value. The agent maintained this incorrect fee even when challenged by the customer. And in the improvement actions, it tells us that the agent must ensure they quote the correct cancellation fee. Absolutely fine. They should consult the policy document to confirm the applicable fee, which in this case is £50, and avoid quoting incorrect amounts. So we can see the difference very clearly when it comes to giving the AI that additional context. And it opens up that additional layer of evaluation, where it's not just the quality of the conversation we're evaluating, but the factual accuracy of the conversation as well. Now let's take a look at how that looks behind the scenes for this particular line item, show you how easy it is to attach these. I'm going to come to the sidebar into the analytics menu, and I'm going to go to our topic manager. This is where all of the line items and inside topics live. So I'm just going to grab this line item. So this is the line item that we just looked at in the scorecard. I'm just going to edit this. Now, for you guys that are using the evaluagent already, there'll be a familiar screen. This is where you give the platform the instruction for what it's to score. So we're assessing whether the agent quoted the correct cancellation fee. And then based on the scoring criteria, now in this case, it's just a pass fail. So for each of those elements, we give the scoring criteria. So in order for it to be a pass, the fee must be an exact match to the fee for the customer scenario. So you'll notice in here that we're not referencing any facts or figures. We're simply asking the platform to make sure that the facts were accurate. Then for a fail, that would be where the agent quotes an incorrect fee for the customer's specific scenario. Now, we can also add in a non-applicable because this is not going to apply to every single scenario. So we can build in those non-applicable scenarios as well. Now, as we come down to the bottom of the screen here, this is where we can attach those knowledge documents that are relevant to this particular line item. So simply select from the drop-down. When you upload your knowledge articles, you can organize them with tags so that they're presented in a way that makes it much easier to find the document that you're looking to attach. So let's say policies, and we can see all of those different knowledge articles that's been uploaded, and we can simply just add those in based on what we need to add in. We'll see this little guy at the bottom here. This is the cancellation policy that's already attached to the line item. And as easy as that, we can see the documents that's been attached in here. Now, every line item every conversation that's scored using this line item will reference that document. And what's interesting is part of the prompts, we don't need to be specific about make sure you check the knowledge article. It's done automatically as part of that process. So really easy to do. Let's take a look at how you actually upload these documents. I'm going to come back to my analytics menu, and this time I'm going to come to the bottom for context engine. So let's take a look. Now, there's two parts to this screen. The first part is the company information, and this is what we kind of touched on in the slides a little bit. This is where you can allow evaluagents AI to understand your organization better, because part of this process, you tell it the industry that you operate in, the region that you operate in, and then provide your business objectives. Now, the really cool thing here is that it gives an additional lens to the AI. So things like predictive metrics, those spotlight analysis results, it gives that added context to really personalize those outputs based on the context that we've added in here. The knowledge vault is that second part, and this is where you hold all your documents essentially. Just as it says in the tin, it's the knowledge vault. All of your documents that you upload here are then presented in this format. Really easy where you can see the title. You can give these things a description, so it's easy to understand what's actually in here. We can see the tags, and more importantly, we can see the number of line items that this document is attached to. Now, in terms of uploading these, really straightforward. It's a case of coming into add document, and we support a number of different types of documents. We upload one of these guys here, like so. And then from here, we can change the title. So it doesn't necessarily need to be the title of the document. You can add in whatever is relevant to the type of document, again, to make it referenceable when you're looking at these things in the platform. We can give a description as well. Again, just to make sure that it's really easy to understand what's actually being uploaded and what's being referenced. And we can add in those tags because that's important to make sure you can easily find these when you're adding them into the line items, like we saw. Policies in here, like so. And then we just upload it. So it's really straightforward to actually add these documents in. Now, of course, documents change, they're updated. policy changes, figures, etc. Now, in this case, where we have 6 line items that are referenced in this document, if this changes, do I need to upload this and change all of those line items? Well, the easy answer is no, you don't. All we have to do is come into the document, edit this here, and as well as being able to change things like the title, let's say you forgot to change that title, you can edit the description, edit the tags, but you can also replace the knowledge document. So if there is an updated document, we can simply go through that same process as before, and that will then replace that document with that new version. Now, once this is saved, any line item that is scored using from this moment on will reference that new document in there. So a really simple process, and what's really important is that it opens up that additional level of evaluation. But as I mentioned, it's not just about evaluating the quality, but the factual accuracy as well. So that's essentially how easy it is to add in these things. Now, Matt, I think it's probably worth saying the next challenge is going to be making sure that knowledge documents are in a organized, readable, and accurate state. So I think one of the common challenges is making sure that your documents are up to date. I guess that's going to be the next thing.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we have this conversation with lots and lots of people, and it's not just a quality challenge, but AI exposes things at a faster rate. And I think anybody that has gone through the deployment of any AI technology in the last 2 years comes up against the foundational challenge of what happens if you can't provide AI with the context and the answer. If it's messy, if it's undocumented, if it's unstructured, you run the risk of things of mistakes being made.
Well, that's, I think, in the when you're looking at agents, that they kind of look at a knowledge article and they think, I don't think that's correct. Typically, they would just ask their neighbour that's been there for years and knows all of the information. They can highlight that. Well, no, it's not. This is the right information, but the knowledge article remains out of date. So that's definitely going to be one of the things I think is making sure that those articles are up to date. I guess that would form part of a regular cadence to make sure that those articles are up to date.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I guess, Chris, on that, just coming to kind of some of the Q&As that I can see in the chat from the likes of Amy and so on. Just in terms of the frequency in which you're talking to clients about updating knowledge base articles, how often are you kind of getting a sense from customers that they're doing that?
Certainly at this stage, we're looking at a kind of monthly cadence. Typically, as well, when they're looking at making sure that scorecards are relevant, up to date, measuring the right things, that's typically following that same process. As part of that work, the knowledge articles are just being checked to make sure that they're still relevant, up to date, etc. Certainly in the beginning, I'd imagine as time goes on, that would probably expand out to like every 3 months. I guess the important thing is it's not mirroring exactly. It's making sure that the outputs are you're getting a high standard of output.
Yeah, but I guess, and just in terms of responding to Amy's question there, to support version control and to avoid duplication, are there plans to create integrations with existing knowledge base providers? In short, Amy, yes, it's very much on mine and Chris's mind and the wider product and engineering team's minds right now. It would be really appreciated if you could drop in the knowledge base provider that you are using, Amy, right now into the chat, because you never know, it might be the top of our list. So information is gold in this world. So if you can drop that in, that would be extremely useful. It's very much on our minds. The reason we took the approach that Chris has shown today is to make sure that the context engine is as open to as many people as possible. We want to make sure that everybody who wants or needs to use the context engine can, rather than limiting it to one integration partner. So that's why we took this approach first. It was very purposeful, but very much interested in understanding what knowledge base providers, yourself and everyone on this call is utilizing actually to help drive the product roadmap. So thanks for that question. We have another question Chris and Tisha, can you apply the same document to different line items on different scorecards? And I think she just followed up. Apologies if I missed this, but if there is no specific line item in the scorecard, for example, cancellations, would the AI still look and refer to documents? So I guess do you want to just touch on that, Chris?
Yeah, so essentially, when you upload your knowledge article to the knowledge vault, you can add that into as many line items as you need, and that will reference that in exactly the same way. Similarly, as well, you can add in more than one document to your line item. So if you want to reference more than one, you just simply select the ones that are relevant. I guess it's important to keep in mind that. Um, the more relevant and more specific you can keep your documents and your line items, that will increase your accuracy. If you just, because it is tempting to just flood the line item with every single knowledge article, and that's where you could potentially run the risk of a kind of lesser accuracy value because it's got so much context. So keep the context specific in that example.
It's a really good point, that last one that you just made there, Chris. I was actually on a conversation earlier today on that subject, whereby if you add too many knowledge base articles, and the temptation is to upload 2,500 and just have all of them on every line item. What happens when the information contradicts each other? You're gonna create challenges with accuracy in the same way that if you gave two correct answers to a human wouldn't know which one the correct answer is, so they'd struggle. So it's a
Yeah.
really, really good point. Just looking at questions from Mark there, would AI work in the same way of you uploading a script into the call because it would cover the entire scorecard? Okay, interesting.
Original thought, Mark, would be I don't know what your thoughts would be, Mark, but if we're looking at making sure that an agent referenced a script, my feeling is that rather than a knowledge article, utilizing text analytics would get you a good level of accuracy because ultimately with text analytics you're measuring did the agent say it or not. If it's then it's looking for those keywords and phrases that would be part of your script. So I kind of feel as if text analytics would be the one for that, Mark.
Yeah, I think there's multiple ways to solve those problems, Mark, that you're describing. I think probably want to take offline and really dig into the details of it. High level, yes. There'll be a way to evaluate it. To Chris's point, there's multiple ways to achieve that outcome. So probably one that we can take offline. Um, what I'm conscious of is we've got 3 minutes left. So let me just share my screen, Chris, very briefly. Um, if I share that, we are just going to ask a poll where while people are kind of submitting more questions, feel free, if we don't get to your question by the end of the webinar, please feel free to add it in and we'll circle back around to it. One of the interesting questions we had as part of our kind of product roadmap, in addition to integrations, is understanding how people are using it as part of the agent improvement cycle and feedback. So it'd be really good just to understand out of everybody on the webinar how you're using knowledge base articles as part of the feedback process with agents. Are you consistently sharing knowledge base articles and direct links to those knowledge base articles as part of the feedback? Are you doing it sometimes and where it's relevant? So it's not perhaps done 100% of the time, but it's more of a where it's relevant. Or maybe it's rare or you're not quite doing it today. Just some of the things that we're thinking about from a product perspective. So really useful to get some initial insights and feedback on that. We'll just give everybody a second to load up. But I think we've got enough there. So it's interesting that sometimes when relevant is the most popular response, which is good. And I guess just in terms of getting started with the context engine, to make sure that we cover that off before ending the webinar today. Obviously, if you're new to evaluagent, please feel free to go on to evaluagent.com, book a tailored demo, and we can walk you through the context engine on your real conversations in your knowledge base, really talk you through your use case, your environment. So Mark, apologies, I'm not sure if you're an existing customer someone that's not using evaluagent yet, but that's definitely the next port of call. If there's anybody on today's session that aren't using evaluagent right now, book a demo. Our team will definitely walk you through all the context engines and the rest of the functionality that exists inside the evaluation platform. And likewise, if you're an existing customer, your CSM is on hand to help get you started. So please reach out to your CSM. They'll be in a position to talk you through next steps for your specific instance with us, and we'll get you set up with context engine and your first knowledge base article uploaded. So thank you for today's session. I think we covered off some of the Q&As we went through, and I'm conscious of time today. But what we'll do, Chris, let me just have a quick chat. Yeah, brilliant. I think we covered some questions there.
Yeah, Catherine, when you were asking about if the article's not mapped directly, does the AI still crawl the entire knowledge base? Quick answer to that is no. It will only reference the document that you attach to that. Again, it's so that the knowledge that the AI is getting is very relevant to that line item as opposed to flooding it. Ashley, where you've got different scorecards for different departments. Context engine is not limited to one scorecard. Any line item that you create that utilizes generative AI has the option to include a knowledge article from your knowledge vault. You're not limited at all.
Brilliant. And what a great way to end. So thank you for everyone joining today. Hopefully it's been quite a fast-paced, action-packed 45 minutes. But hopefully you're walking away with more knowledge than ever before and an understanding of what perhaps limited AutoQA is now one step closer to being solved thanks to the context engine. So thank you for joining, and we hope to see you on the next evaluation webinar very, very soon. Thank you all, and thanks to you as well, Chris.
Thanks, everyone.